So this right here is the TicWatch Pro 2020, which is a refreshed version of the original TicWatch from 2018, which was a very popular watch for its two-screen layout here and several other tricks it has up its sleeve. But right here, essentially, we have two screens. We have an LCD screen that shows you the time, the date, your steps, your heart rate, and you can use this in essential mode and only have that on and your battery lasts for like a month, or you can use it as the always-on display whenever you're not looking at your watch. And when you flip your wrist up, it'll go to the AMOLED screen and you'll have a standard smartwatch there running Wear OS. There's definitely a lot to talk about here. Like, first of all, what is actually different about the 2020 version, considering it looks so similar to the original version? And then secondly, I'll actually do an entire review and dive into this watch and test out the heart rate sensor, the step tracking, the speaker, the microphone. I'll test everything out on this watch to help you decide if this is the right watch to buy. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Mike O'Brien, and this is another video filmed in quarantine. So I hope if you are watching this right now that you are healthy and safe and everything's going well for you in quarantine. And if you're watching this in the future, I'm glad to know the world hopefully recovered from this. But regardless, I feel like we're in, like, if you guys saw Lost, I feel like I'm in the hatch right now where it's like you're not really allowed to leave and you have to like make videos and stuff, and it's just a weird dynamic. But let's dive into this watch now. I want to start off with the physical tour of the device here, and I want to start off with the screens because that's the big selling point of this watch, and it's very important to understand that. Now, you have a 1.4-inch screen here, so pretty big. And it's an AMOLED screen, is the main one you're going to be using for most of the smartwatch functions. And something I like about it is that you don't really see a black ring and like the double bezel they have on some other watches. Instead, you have like this nice little, the classic minute marks around the watch there, and they kind of cover up where the bezel actually would be. So it looks pretty nice. Overall in shape, it's pretty similar to the Galaxy watch, but we do not have a rotating bezel. We have two buttons on the right side, and neither of those rotate. I mean, technically they rotate, but they don't do anything when you rotate them. So we don't have a crown, which means all of your navigation is either from pressing the buttons or from swiping on the screen. Now, looking at the two buttons, the top button is going to open your app drawer or else go home. And if you tap and hold it, it opens Google Assistant. I'll test that out in a minute. And then the bottom button opens up the app of your choice. And by default, that is the Tic Health app right there. So if you want to work out using their app, you can do that right there. Double tapping either of these does nothing, and then tapping and holding the bottom button is how you'll switch into essential mode or power off your watch. Now on the right side, we also have a microphone right there, so you can use that for Google Assistant or for phone calls, so you can field phone calls on this watch. There's also an LTE version available. And the speaker then, if you look, I actually struggled to find it at first because I didn't see a speaker when I was wearing the watch. When you take it off, you'll actually see on the inside, on the bottom part of your wrist there, that's where they hide the speaker. So it is a little bit muted when it's on your wrist. It's kind of strange to have it down there, but it does serve its function and you can still hear everything that you need to. The body of this, they say, is carbon fiber with nylon, and I'm pretty sure from looking at it, it looks to me more like it is nylon that is reinforced with carbon fiber. And then on the back, we have our stainless steel plate right there with the heart rate sensor. It's a 2-diode heart rate sensor, and then our charger on the left side, the 4 little nodes there. And that's really all there is to look at with this mechanically. Of course, the watch strap it comes with is genuine Italian leather, and it has rubber on the inside. So a really nice, probably one of my favorite watch straps, where it's pretty soft, it feels really comfortable, and it just is a very nice feeling watch strap. Now, this is waterproof IP68, which means you can go swimming with it, drop it in the water, shower, whatever you want to do. Just maybe don't go diving with it, and you should be fine. Now, I would recommend if you're gonna do that, maybe genuine Italian leather is not the best. If you're gonna go snorkeling in the ocean, maybe get a different strap, but it's really easy to swap out straps. It's very standard with the 2 little pins right there. So the second screen is where things really get interesting. Admittedly, it does make the watch a little bit thicker, but it does save a lot of battery. So having that as the always-on display means that you're not wasting your battery all day, and you also don't just have a black circle on your wrist. So having the time there, having a normal watch look is pretty nice, and then you flip it up and you have a smartwatch. I like having that, and switching into essential mode is really unique on this watch because while we do see most other watches like the Galaxy watch and a lot of other Wear OS watches have a time-only mode, which means you can last 5, 10 days, whatever, using time only, maybe 30 days for some watches, but it only tells you the time, which is kind of pointless for a smartwatch to do that. Now what this one does in essential mode is it tells you the date, it tells you the time, so already that's more than most time-only watches out there. And then it also tells you your steps, it tracks your steps all day, and you can press the bottom button to see your heart rate. So having that combination there, I think really adds some value to this watch. If you're trying to go on a long trip and you don't want the battery, like you're gonna be in the woods and you wanna know the time and you don't want to, have a charging pack with you all the time to charge your battery, that's nice. And also, if your battery's running low, it automatically switch over to essential mode. I've seen a lot of watches out there also that claim they have 2 days of battery, and they end up being like maybe a couple hours, like 1.5 days at the most. But this watch actually does have a full 2 days. For my testing, I found that if I took 24 hours and then I extrapolate that, it ends up 50 hours of battery life. Now, the reason I can't actually test it to the time it dies is because it does switch over to essential mode at some point. So, but still, 50 hours is a pretty good battery life for a smartwatch under normal use, and that's with everything on. But let's talk about the specs right now to see where this is actually different from the original version. So this does have a 1.4-inch display, as I talked about. It has LCD and AMOLED screens, carbon fiber nylon body, which is really nice, IP68 water resistance. It has GPS, NFC, so Google Pay right there. It has Wi-Fi, it has Bluetooth. The Bluetooth can connect to your phone or to your earbuds, or both if you want. And unfortunately, it is only Bluetooth 4.2, so it doesn't have the newest Bluetooth, but still, it should work just fine. And then it has 1 GB of RAM, and that's what's different really. That's really like the main difference between this and the previous version from 2018. 1 GB of RAM definitely helps this run Wear OS, and it runs a little more smoothly than the old one, but the one drawback here then is the processor on here is Snapdragon 2100. You have to dig a little bit to actually find that. And that processor dates back to 2016. So unfortunately, even the Snapdragon 3100 is a little bit antiquated. I don't really like seeing that in a lot of smartwatches, but it gets the job done. This one is even older than that, which I find to be I don't know why they did a refresh on this and they didn't add a newer processor. So that's one thing when you're using it. You'll notice it's not the snappiest watch, but it does, for the most part, get the job done. It just takes a little bit longer to read your heart rate, open apps, power on, stuff like that. Just takes a little bit more time. So now let's go and test out some of these sensors on this watch. Okay, so to get into essential mode, you tap and hold the bottom right button and then go to essential mode right there. And then to get out of it, you have to tap and hold the button again. So I am going to test out the step counter by going 1,000 steps. So we're at 1,745 right now. And let's see how accurately this measures. All right, so 1,000 steps later and we're at 2,750. Honestly, every time I flip my wrist up, it shows something different. It was 40 10 seconds ago. So it's not the most accurate on the planet, but it's definitely close enough. 1,000 steps and we're clocking in, less than 1% difference there. To get out of this mode, you tap and hold the top button, and it should eventually switch back to regular mode. As we're seeing right there, it powers back on. One thing with the slower processor is, the screen's really dim right there, but it does take a really long time to power on actually. So to test out the heart rate, we'll go into Google Fit and we'll go down to heart rate. And one complaint about this watch is the screen is not actually that bright, so it's really hard to see here when it's so bright out. But we can go down to read heart rate and let's compare to my actual measurement. So the heart rate sensor does take a pretty long time to measure. Again, another thing with having a slower processor on board. There we go, it has a reading right now and it says it was 73 beats per minute. So 73 beats per minute is actually pretty close. I measured and I got 72 beats per minute. So realistically, this is pretty accurate. I wouldn't expect it to replace any medical equipment, of course. And if you're doing very active workouts and you want to track your heart rate very closely, this may not be perfect, but it definitely should give most people a really good idea of how hard they're working out and if they're in the right heart rate zone. So now let's test the GPS by starting a walking workout and we'll see how accurate it is. All right, so I just walked a known half mile, and since I stopped, it went from 0.44 to 0.43 and now 0.45. So it's not looking good for this watch as far as GPS goes. It looks like we're off by at least 10% right now. So I don't know if I would necessarily trust this for going on a long run or anything that needs to be very accurate. For average runs, it'll give you the right idea. And I think what happened here was that it lost signal quite a few times during that walk. All right, so let's test out the speaker with Google Assistant right here. So if we turn on the screen and we say, "What's the weather in Albuquerque, New Mexico?"
Currently in Albuquerque, it's 54 and mostly cloudy. Today, it'll be cloudy.
So definitely not very loud,
60 and a low of 35.
but certainly audible. So this is running Wear OS. Looking at the interface here, it has the always on display right there, which is also the same as what it'll look like in essential mode. When we flip the watch up or press the button right there, it'll bring us into the AMOLED screen. And running Wear OS, you can tap and hold in the middle of the watch to change your watch face if you would like. This one's called Goldwing right here. We can swipe down and get to our quick settings there. We can go to full settings as well. We could go and find our phone. We could turn on Google Pay right there and pay for something on a vending machine or whatever. If we swipe over from the left, it tells us what our weather is. We can go up and down, and it just tells us basically about our day. If we swipe over from the right, it shows us essentially how fit we are today. We can go through the different tiles. There's a weather one. There's another one for like a timer, and you can have 5 tiles as is pretty standard for using Google Wear OS right here. So if you swipe up from the bottom, you'll get your notifications, and if you have a text, you can actually reply to that from here, assuming you have Android. So if I go, there's actually several ways you can reply. You can just hit reply right there, and you can either do a voice typing right there. You can see an emoji. You can actually draw an emoji if you want, or you can go to a keyboard. And if you want to do that, you'll actually have to you'll do some swipe texting, and it'll do stuff like that. And then you can send it, and it works just fine. Now, if we hit the top right button, like I said, this will open up the app drawer. They have lots of apps on here. You can, of course, get many more in the Google Play Store, but the ones that are specific to this one are the Tic apps. So if we go down to Tic, they have like Tic Health, Tic Pulse, and Tic Exercise. Admittedly, they're not really that different from the Google Health one, so I don't really use those. But we do also have like the privacy app right there and a few others that come pre-installed on this watch. So in conclusion, guys, this watch I have mixed feelings about. I think that I'm disappointed to see that they have some antiquated interiors. It's not the most updated watch. It's also a little bit bulkier than I would like thickness-wise. Otherwise, the shape of the watch and the aesthetic, I think they did a really nice job. It's very durable, it's waterproof. I love the strap, I think it looks really nice, and I love having the second display on here. So is this the best watch you can buy right now? Honestly, maybe not. I think there are some better specs out there on other watches, but if you buy this watch, I think you would still be pretty happy with it. Even though it's not the snappiest watch out there, I think that it is a good watch. It definitely gets the job done. You can reply to notifications, and you can do pretty much everything you need to with this watch. It just might be a little bit slower. So guys, that's what I have to say about this watch. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. As always, thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.